All right. Hello. This is Jake Light, gaming lawyer at your service. We're once again back with legal investigations, where in this stream, in this VOD, anyone that is watching this in the future, where I'll talk about all sorts of legal matters. And for today, we'll be talking about privacy policy, specifically about Discord. All right, Discord's privacy policy. Do take note, every company's, every platform's, privacy policy is different. But yeah, so we're going to be specifically looking at looking at Discord. So the things that we're going to be talking about might not apply to everything. What we're going to be specifically tackling is whether or not Discord is using this particular legal document to do something that they are not supposed to do, right? Because I feel like, how long has it been? It's been about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, where this supposedly controversy came up, and people were, being afraid here and there. So yeah, I'm here to try and dispel any sort of, worries, fear about it. I've taken quite some time trying to learn up or everything, I would say the basics of what is privacy laws and why are companies doing all this stuff, and whether or not is there anything that protects us in terms of preventing companies in simply using or misusing or exploiting our personal information. So this is the point of the entire legal investigations. So if you're thinking of diving really deep into privacy laws, this is not it. I have to emphasize this. I'm not a privacy expert, privacy law expert or anything. I just want to I did my research mostly specifically to find out whatever people is being afraid of is substantiated or not. So that's what we'll be doing. So in any case, if you have any questions, anyone that is watching right now have any questions, I've already pinned a message over here. You can go to the telenonim.me over there and ask questions. Or if you want to look at what I have prepared for today, for a handout, quote unquote handout, is the information, is the references that I've tried and looked up and see all sorts of things. So you can read it yourself. All the news, all the Discord's privacy policy itself, well as some laws that I've referenced, which is relevant to, again, specifically to Discord's privacy policy, because there's a lot of if we are talking about privacy laws, it's so many of them. Although you can say roughly they are similar, but the level of protection for people who provide personal information to these companies differ. All right, so do take note of that. Regardless, so we'll be starting with what is privacy policy. Okay, I think that is the first question that we want to ask, right? What is privacy policy? Maybe anyone that is watching right now, you can give me what's your first impression, or whenever you hear this words privacy policy, what does it mean to you? For me, it has always, because I've legal background, it has always meant to be some sort of document that dictates what companies or any businesses do with your information that you provide to them. And other than that, I assumed whatever they say that you are they are going to be using your information, personal information, for whatever purpose it is. As long as you have agreed to the privacy policy, then it's how do you say? It's a free for all. So there's no say for you to do anything. There's nothing you can do about however they want to use your personal information, because you just blindly accepted it when you created an account. Because most of the time, I think not most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, whenever you register an account, especially with a Discord account, they will tell you to accept the terms of service. And inside the terms of service, they will include you to say, you accept this, you will be also accepting whatever is provided in several other legal documents. You know, the community guidelines, that's one. And then privacy policy, that's another one. So that's where you have, you know, how do you say, expressly agreed to whatever it is that they want to do with your personal information. At least, you know, that is what I understand. But as I've kind of researched it deeper, I found out probably not as biased as I thought. All right, not as biased as I thought. It is still a document, right, that tells you what they do with your information, your personal information, whatever you provide to them. But there's a lot of very specific details in how they collect it, how they use it, and who do they share it with. A lot of those details are provided in the privacy policy for a lot of reasons. But yes, in any case, let's you know, before I go on too much of a tangent, let's see what Wikipedia defines privacy policy as. Right, so over here, I think I should probably So over here, as I highlighted, privacy policy is a statement or legal document in privacy law that discloses some or all of the ways a party gathers, uses, discloses, and manages a customer or client's data. Right. So what is this information? What is this data? Personal information can be anything that can be used to identify an individual, right? So a lot of things where this is included. Not limited to the person's name, address, date of birth, marital status, contact information, ID issue and expiry date, financial records, credit information, medical history, where one travels, intention to acquire goods and services. So personal information can be anything. But for our sake, Discord, you know, I don't think Discord asks your marital status. That's one thing I don't think they ask. They don't ask for your financial records. They don't ask for your credit information and all that stuff, right? Have to keep in mind, you know, when we read all these definitions, we have to try to apply it back to Discord's privacy policy. We'll get into the legal document itself. You know, we'll go through whatever is stated inside and find out what Discord defines as personal information and such. All right, but suffice to say, yes, this is the general definition of privacy policy. A person's personal information can mean anything, right? But we'll get into the specifics. All right, we'll get into the specifics later. And then also over here, I highlighted privacy policy would depend upon the applicable law and may need to address requirements across geographical boundaries and legal jurisdictions. Yes, so because information travels not just locally, like within the country, especially, you know, Discord, that is being used globally in the sense that, you know, everyone is connected via the social platform. So it's common sense, or it's logical to think that, you know, not one single country's laws apply to Discord. Several countries' privacy laws would apply to this social platform. So yeah, have that in mind, at the back of your mind for now. Right? Don't get too confused, right? We'll talk about that much later in the seminar, right? So all that is done, right? We've kind of understand what is privacy policy in a general sense. So what is all the hoo-ha? What is all the problem, the controversy that has been raised in regards to Discord's privacy policy? So apparently, right, for those who do not know, apparently there's this one section, one part of the Discord's privacy policy. As I highlight here, they have deleted this part previously. All right, I'm gonna say previously for those that might not be caught up with the latest news. So previously it was deleted in terms of these two sentences, which says, we generally do not store the contents of video or voice calls or channels. If we were to change that in the future, for example, to facilitate content moderation, we will disclose that to you in advance. So that's one thing, that's one part of it, meaning to say the personal information, just to quickly explain, is it includes, should be including, video calls and voice calls. But here they explicitly said that they do not generally store any of them. All right, they don't generally store. Okay, but this was deleted. When Discord's privacy policy was being updated. I think it was supposed to be announced end of February, at the start of March, like that. So that's what probably, around the time when people are like, hey, why is this missing? So yeah, that's one part. The second sentence, we also don't store streaming content when you share your screen, but we do retain this thumbnail cover image for the stream for a short period of time. So over here, they deleted this part as well to say that they don't store streaming content. So for those that do not use Discord much, there is a feature for you to, kind of like what I'm doing now, which is streaming to other people, but only specifically to a person's or a group or company's private server. All right, you can do streamings in that way. So apparently both of these sentences was removed for the latest updates on the Discord privacy policy. So that what people feared was that does that mean, when it was removed, does it mean that Discord is allowed to store videos or voice calls or channels? Or as well, that Discord is allowed to store streaming content when you share a screen, right? So people were like, oh no, they removed this. This means that they are going to be, using your or storing your video or voice calls, or maybe even tracking your all this stuff, right? Which you probably would consider this very private stuff, especially video or voice calls to specifically a person, all right, a single individual. It doesn't say anything about that though. This line here, video or voice calls or channels, it could be to a single person, or could be to multiple people in a voice chat group or in a friends group or something. That's one of the features provided by Discord as well. There's also the voice calls and video calls kind of inside Discord servers as well. Inside channels, you can also talk to people in voice channels as well. It's not explicitly differentiated to say video or voice calls or channels. So yeah, up to interpretation, but it is very general enough, I would say, to include all these things I have said. So why are people afraid of this? Why are people afraid of this sort of information being stored by Discord? Allegedly, so that's the question, right? I try to think of reasons. If people, watching on the stream right now, you kind of have an idea why people are afraid of it, do let me know, because I'm only one person. I can't exactly know how everyone thinks. So for one thing, is that I would say maybe the most rational fear people have is they are afraid Discord is watching their video calls or voice calls, or recording their video calls or voice calls, or recording their streaming content, right? Just for that very reason. I would say for privacy reasons only. It's like you want to have these conversations by yourselves, but because they remove this, terms and clauses, you would kind of feel like you would be worried that Discord is secretly watching you stream in your server, or Discord is secretly watching you, listening to your voice calls or video calls. So that's probably the only thing I can think of. All right, but I can't really say they are afraid that their streaming content or video calls or voice calls will be sold to people. I don't think that's the reason. It's although major part why people are afraid of companies collecting personal information, personal data from users, is that they're afraid it will be shared to people, whether for profit or not profit, so that it would be some sort of like a public knowledge, or people would know what things that you want to keep secret about, right? So that I would understand that, but for this one, I don't think that applies. As much as far as hard as I try to consider whether or not that is a reason, not really. So yeah, so we have the kind of what I'm trying to do is I want to find out why people are afraid of this, so we can tackle it, so we can find out whether is this fear really, whether this reason of fearing your privacy has been invaded logical or harmful in any sense, or what's the purpose if they were to store videos or store voice calls. What nefarious reasons would Discord have if they did that? So we're trying to find that out, okay? But before that, I do want to point out, yes, if you look at this news article already, thank you for the follow, Tanzi. Welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy stay. So yeah, oh, zombie, hello. My mom took my Among Us away. Is it possible to sue? I don't think it's possible to take your Among Us away, but I also don't think you can sue her. A lot of missing information. I can't really answer that. I'm sorry. But yes, hope you're doing well, zombie. So yeah, Discord privacy policy. They changed back, right? They removed the text here, but they already suddenly, I think the very next day, according to this news article, one day later, though, Discord had added them back in, according to snapshots of the website in the Wayback Machine. So they use some sort of, I've used some those sort of websites where, a website gets deleted but still remains in search engines or something like that. So yeah, I guess probably this is true. Immediately, people complained about this. They added it back silently, and apparently they did. Apparently, a Discord spokesperson addressed this issue. How is stream, by the way? What is the topic for today? Oh, thank you for subscribing, Pungyo. Welcome to the stream, and thank you again. Today's topic is about Discord's privacy policy, zombie. So yeah, they actually, yeah, they acknowledged that people were making noise about it, complaining that this was removed, so they quietly put it back in, right? They put it back in. But regardless, all right, I would say the conversation right now is more or less a academic one as to whether or not if Discord removed these two sentences, is there going to be a problem for people? Is it going to be used for any sort of malicious purpose, right? That's what we're trying to find out. All right, but in either way, also I'm trying to also highlight a few things about Discord. There's also this news article about Discord being fined for failing to secure personal data. Some people are trying to, as far as I've seen discussions in other social media platforms, they're trying to say Discord have actually broken privacy laws before, and trying to say that they are actually going to be, exploiting users' personal information. And this is not the first time they did it. But as I look at this news article, it's not exactly that. But apparently, they have broken some sort of European Union law, okay, which is called General Data Protection Regulation. We'll talk about it in very soon. All right, very soon. But apparently, they have broken a law where they didn't provide a written retention policy. Suffice to say, it's basically Discord had a lot of information in their database, in their server, that they didn't, remove for a long period of time, right? So that's why they were fined 800,000 euros. They were fined 800,000 euros because they didn't have a retention policy. They didn't have at least a express or explicit policy to tell you what they will use, how they deal with data they don't use anymore, or data that is too old, right? Sorry for all the questions. No problem. I hope my answers were sufficient, regardless. I mean, it's alright. I watched the VOD for stuff I missed. No problem. I kind of just started, really. So we haven't really gotten into the gist of everything, right? So yeah, Discord actually didn't have this retention policy, which I actually don't know. Companies needed to do this. At least that companies that are governed under the European Union, or has done business in the European Union. So okay, so there's that. They also were warned about having a password policy where their password suggestion was not a password requirement was not complicated enough, right? It said here, accepted a 6-character password with only letters and numbers. So they wanted more complicated passwords and longer passwords for Discord. So that's another thing. And also the third thing is that apparently the European Union wanted Discord to also warn users that if they have not exited voice rooms, voice channels or voice calls or anything like that, to tell them that they have not exited the voice channels and that the voice is, the call is still ongoing and people might be listening or recording still. So this is also a rule, a law that you can't, you have to cover. The company has to cover this sort of a problem. You have to notify users that they haven't closed their voice channel, voice calls yet, which is amazing. All right, it's such a detail, such a minor. I would say not really minor, kind of minor. Depends on who you ask. Thinking that this is a serious matter, probably, but again, depends on people who you ask. So there's this. So after reading this, short article of Discord being fined 800,000 euros, it's totally irrelevant to people of thinking that this is some sort of directly related to a exploitation or abuse of their powers in using personal data or something. It's just that they haven't provided enough express coverage, express policy in how they dealt with personal data or personal information. That's pretty much it. So this is something I want to highlight to, but also kind of relevant, all right? Because we're going to be also talking about retention policy later a bit. All right. Pungu said, I don't know how many Philippine viewers you have, but I'm going through the handouts right now and having to deal with Data Privacy Act, Protection of Personal Information Act, and lines I can probably link to those looking for those laws in particular. I don't think that's necessary, Pungu, because as far as I can see, Discord is not bound under, or it doesn't need to comply with specific laws that are found in Southeast Asia, because there are companies of mostly their laws are complying with the US, specifically California laws, as well as European laws, and partially, I would say, United Kingdom laws as well. From what I've seen, from what I've looked at their entire privacy policy, any other country's privacy laws might not be applicable. There might be there might be more applicable if the companies are situated in the countries themselves, all right? But yeah, anyways, thank you for trying to refer the relevant laws either way. Few people who use Discord often are aware that you're not automatically booted from voice chats, but I try to check processes on Windows to see if it still listens to the mic, but it's closed and saw nothing obvious. From what this article says, in Microsoft Words, closing the application usually means exiting it. So yeah, not every app is the same as Discord, and basically not every application functions the same as every other social media platforms or such. So do take note of that. You remind me of Saul Goodman. I'm not. I'm totally not. Yeah, in real life, they are only bound to US law. You're like the enemy Saul Goodman. Like most companies based in the US. Could it be an issue of lack of precedence? Discord does have Singaporean servers, so I wonder if maybe it would still be relevant. Because they do South American ones. I don't know if they rent it on theirs though. I would say this is a guess only, alright? This is a guess. They might be governed under all sorts of other countries' laws and such. But my guess is that most countries' privacy laws are based on the GDPR. This is just my guess, alright? Just my guess from the very rough research I've done, the very brief research I've done, is that I've seen at least I've researched on UK and as well as Malaysian law in regards to privacy laws. They're kind of based on GDPR from the looks of the sections I've seen, right? So yeah, maybe that's why they didn't specifically mention all the relevant countries' laws that would apply under the privacy policy of Discord, right? But either way, not what this live seminar will be targeting, all right? If we are going to be talking about the entirety of privacy laws, we would not have enough time, all right? We'll be here all day long talking about the very specific things of how privacy laws are controlled, how it is protected, what the rights are for everyone that is provided personal information to companies. It's really complicated. And my research, that's it, right? How lawyers do their research. It's not by reading the entire laws, acts, or anything that is relevant to what we're trying to find out. Normally, how we do our research is knowing what needs to be tackled, knowing what the problem we need to solve, what sort of laws that are in favor, what sort of is not in favor to us. We need to know specific things. So when we do research, we always look at specific terms, specific context, specific subjects, all that. Then we try to pick it all one by one, collect them all, compile all of them, and see what the result is. So that's how we do things, really. Because every act is going to have thousands and thousands of words. Nobody has time for that. Not even lawyers, all right? So that's how we do things. But of course, over time, if let's say you are specialized in a specific law, over time you probably would read an entire act, throughout your career. You probably would be exposed to all sorts of cases, all sorts of situations that require you to look at every aspect of it. But for now, we're just going to find out is Discord specifically, all right? These two questions, we just want to answer these two questions. Is Discord storing video or voice calls or channels or streaming content problematic? Is there a problem with it? Is it harmful for Discord to store this information, data, right? So we're going to look into what does Discord do with this information? How do they use it? When would they be using it? And all that. all right. So just specifically that. Discord. I do feel GDPR was used as a baseline by many countries, even the ones that are stricter than GDPR itself. Problem-based approach then, kinda like medical specialists then. Having worked as staff before, I don't see a problem with merely storing this info. What they do with it is what matters. Yes, what they do with it is what I believe matters. So I asked this question previously, is why do people, because it's not merely, I don't want to just merely answer whether there's a problem with storing this information, but I also want to find out why are people afraid of this, right? Why are people so goddamn afraid of privacy policies? So specifically about this controversy where, people are making a lot of noise, saying they want to boycott Discord because they've removed these two sentences. So I think it's blown out of proportion for me personally. So I would say maybe it's a overreaction. I don't know. For me, it might be just that people are bothered by it, bothered by Discord being able to see what you're talking about, or see what you're looking about, or talking about, sharing about, whatever it is. The basis is more or less their privacy is being invaded. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe in their private conversations that they are having. So that's why they are making a big scene, making a lot of complaint about this. People who have never worked as back end staff for social media before, I feel, don't have an understanding of why companies need this info. Agree that reaction is a knee-jerk response. Yeah, so other than that, I can't really see the purpose or the problems with it, but we'll touch on certain things as we go, all right? As we go. But that's it. We're going to now finally look into Discord's privacy policy. And I'll try to briefly explain the entirety of Discord's privacy policy. And I do understand, after reading all of this, why people don't want to read privacy policies, is it's really long, right? Even though Discord's privacy policy is, in a way, really simplified version of privacy policies, it's really long, okay? Much longer than their terms of service or their community guidelines. Discord's community guidelines is really short. But yes, I've read the entire thing, but more or less not difficult to answer. It's just that it's very detailed in what they are covering, right? Because personal data is very, very broad. It's very general. Almost everything can be considered personal data. As we learned, the Wikipedia definition is that yes, anything could be personal information. Even inside the laws that I've looked into, how they define personal information, personal data, is very broad as well, because they want to protect people. Really, the purpose is to protect people. They don't want companies finding some sort of loophole that says, oh, this is not considered personal data, or this is not personal information, so they can just exploit this loophole. So yeah, there's a reason why personal information is very general in its definition, and that's why privacy policies are very, very long. Sometimes very long, sometimes very short. If they are very short, hopefully you have read them. Short doesn't mean it's good, okay? Short sometimes means that they didn't really cover a lot of things and might be risky to use them. So yeah, I would say if a privacy policy is really detailed, not to say complicated, if it's detailed, it is good. All right. All right. Let me see. Chat. These companies need to retain some information for both legal compliance and making their service safe for as many of their users as possible. Yes, that's one of a few reasons. There's a lot of reasons. All right. We'll just get into a sec. If people need to communicate securely, use something military grade, not the consumer and user product. If people were really, really worried about their, personal information, personal conversations being watched by people, you can't use any social media platform. You can't use any social media platform. The very moment when you create your account, you're already providing personal information to them, right? If you don't, I would say, if you are afraid of the company not having enough security, not necessarily the company themselves obtaining your personal information, personal data. Maybe someone is capable of hacking the platform. That's what you're worried about. Then that's pretty much something I can't really tell you whether or not you should use a platform or not, because I'm not a expert on computer hacking, engineering, all this sorts. It's more or less requires someone that is expert on it to tell you whether Discord is safe to use in that aspect. For me, all right, what I'm only going to tell you is what is written in the privacy policy. I'm not going to tell you whether or not Discord is going to do something that they didn't say they're going to do inside their privacy policy. Okay, that's out of my field. If they are doing something that is not found inside their privacy policy, for me that means that's wrong. Okay. Thank you for the hydrate and stretch. Yeah, I think they did a good job at making it a bit more accessible to a layperson than some other places. Exactly. Don't be on social media. But that's the thing. It's not really that people are afraid of their personal information being taken. It's that there are more. I would say again, most people are afraid that private conversation isn't private, and people are seeing what they are doing. Maybe it's something that's very sus, something that is illegal, something that's criminal, right? People just don't want people to find out, right? And it's most likely that's the reason why people in general don't want companies or don't want to realize companies do actually see what you're writing, do actually hear what you're saying when it is necessary, right? We'll get into when, right? It's not every time, but we'll get into when they do that, right? So yeah, we're going to start explaining the privacy policy now. Try to, in quick fashion, right? So over here, first paragraph. This privacy policy explains how we collect, use, store, protect, and share your personal information through our services. Okay, so if you reside in the European Economic Area (EEA) or United Kingdom, Discord Netherlands BV is the data controller of your personal information collected through the services. Right. So for those that do not know what is data controller, you see plenty of it here and there. Data controller, the term, it's basically Discord, right? Discord is the data controller. Why? It's because they are the one who decides how to use your personal data. They are the ones who decide why they are using your personal data, and they are the ones who are deciding how to use your personal data, right? What to collect, how to use them, why are they using them? All that is decided by them. That's why they are the data controller. And I think most legislations, most laws use these terms as well. Data controller or data processor or something like that. And for those that are providing the data is the data subject. All right, data subject. We are considered the data subject because we provide them. We are the person in question. We are the individual in question. Unrelated question, but are NDAs legally binding? Yes. Depending on what is something, what are the things that you are not supposed to talk about, really. But NDAs are binding, especially, and it's especially used a lot. If we are talking about HoloLive, Nijisanji, something that is somewhat relevant to us VTubers, they have NDAs, definitely, and they are very binding. Okay, if you breach them, there are consequences. You know, as how you've seen a lot of popular news, or famous news, controversial news, where VTubers have been fired from these companies for divulging corporate information or corporate secrets that they shouldn't be telling people. So yeah, NDAs is a thing, but also it's also kind of a thing. You know, it's kind of like employment as well. If your job involves a lot of company secrets, maybe recipes, formulas, trade secrets, all that stuff, you is within your knowledge, within your authority to withhold, you probably will be signing NDA as well, and if you leak those information, you will be in trouble. So there's that. So yeah, getting back to this one, that's why this sentence over here, right? European Economic Area, United Kingdom, is kind of why I say Discord is complying with laws that are provided under the GDPR, all right, as well as US laws, because down here, I can just, go down here. Also talks about CCPA. CCPA is California Consumer Privacy Act. So they do specifically talk about Californian laws in regards to privacy laws, because I assume that their main company is situated in California. That's why they have to comply with the privacy laws in California, right? So that's that. So when we are talking about laws, we're just specifically focus on those. But for now, we're just going to go through the privacy policy, just the privacy policy, right? I don't want to confuse everyone, so we're just going to we'll try slowly to go one by one, clause by clause, although they don't really have a clause system, but you don't know what I mean. Anyways, so yeah, it's so this is not really that important. You just have to understand Discord is the data controller. Discord is the only one that controls everything about your personal data. So that's it. And they have a summary of all what this privacy policy is about. It's good enough to find out what they do with your information, but it's not good enough to specifically what is it how would they be dealing with your personal information, right? So this is some of the things I highlighted, which I would say is important. Like over here, we don't sell your personal information, all right? So with this sentence, with just this sentence, I'm a lawyer, so I can't say 100%. I'm just going to say 90%, 90%. I can tell you that whatever you provide, whatever personal information you provide, they are not going to sell it, right? They're not going to sell it to a third party. So with this sentence alone, if Discord does anything opposing to what they have said they won't do with the information, would be breaking laws, would be breaking a lot of laws. Okay, so at least with this one, I think I can dispel a lot of worries by people or fears by people that Discord will be using your information for something that you don't like, ethically speaking, yes, because I think a lot of people don't know this. I didn't really know until I confirmed this, is that yes, companies really can sell your personal information. There's nothing illegal about it. Selling your personal information is totally legal. It's not criminal in any sense. Whatever information it is, it's up for grabs, right? It's up for grabs. But of course, again, there are laws that they have to comply to make this possible, right? Because there's tons of companies that are literally in the business of selling and buying information from people, right? Because number one reason why this is a very lucrative business is a lot of companies rely on this sort of personal information to find out what people like, what people want to buy, what people are interested in buying and selling, and all that stuff. This sort of information is very useful for a lot of companies. That's why companies or people are willing to buy it, and willing to find all sorts of ways to get it, right? Thank you. Been trying to tell people this, even highlighting the part of their privacy policy. And yeah, data brokering sadly isn't illegal. Yeah, it might be highly unethical, right? Might be highly unethical to be selling people's personal information, but it's legit business for various reasons, because you can't really regulate this without touching on a lot of different areas, a lot of different considerations, which we'll get into. But anyways, moving on. Then they say we limit what information is required. So I highlighted this in red because it's more important. Why? Let us see. Require the information that enables us to create your account, provide and maintain our services, meet our commitments to our users, and satisfy our legal requirements. The rest is optional. So with this sentence, again, they're telling you whatever information they are getting from you is only necessary, right? Then the rest are optional. Is meaning to say, could be you're giving it willingly, you have given consent to provide this information, or there are personal information, personal data that you are capable of deciding whether to give them or not. You have the choice. They're in their Discord app or in their Discord browser, whatever you want to call it. They have given you options to, disable certain personal information that you don't want to give to Discord to use. So that is what it means when they say optional, right? But what they necessarily need to use, what personal information they have to use, I would say makes sense. When you're creating your account, you have to provide them certain information, right? What information? We'll look into it in a sec. And if, let's say, they want to maintain their services, probably when they say services, probably in the sense of sharing videos, photos, links, sending messages. Maintaining the platform's main use is providing communication, socializing, all that stuff is necessary, and then meeting their commitments to their users, and this would involve security, community guidelines, moderation, all that stuff. Then as well as legal requirements here, it's all about those people using this platform for not good reasons. Either it's for criminal activities, terrorism, illegal activities, as well as probably a lot more hacking, all the things that you shouldn't be doing using this platform is what is satisfying their legal requirements are, right? If people are committing crime here, I don't think Discord can absolve themselves by just saying, no, it's not our application, or it's our responsibility. So that easily. So yeah, one of those things. Moving on. We care deeply about safety. So what does this mean? So they will use certain information to help us identify violations of our community guidelines and prevent harmful content from being distributed through the services. So yes, what this says is, the personal information or personal data they provided to Discord is going to be used for this as well, to moderate Discord. Okay. So that's pretty much what is important. So we're trying to quickly go through this. We're going to only look at the highlights. Right. Discord is your place to find community. This is just, I would say, flavor text. It's just telling you what this is all about and explaining to you that you probably should read the terms of service as well. It's connected with this privacy policy, right? But also they say it may use content posted in larger spaces to help us improve and power features like highlights notifications, identify harmful content on the services, and enforce our terms of service and community guidelines. Repeating what I've just said, using whatever data they've provided to improve the services and make Discord a safe place. All right. Now the first important part of the privacy policy, the information we collect, right? So what does this mean? It includes information you provide to us, information we collect automatically, and information received from other sources. So yeah, Discord collects all sorts of things. It can be manually, it can be automatically, it can be from third-party sources. That's what they're trying to tell you, right? So what sort of information are we talking about? And the good thing about having this information, how do they confirm that certain people are too young to use the platform? Sometimes they have omitted them as messages. Most social media do not consider screenshots as valid evidence for reports, as they are easy to manipulate for. Yes, that is something Discord's privacy policy also touches on, right? Mine is using a social platform, but not being how do you say? Of course, in the first instance, probably can't find out whether they are adults or not adults. But if they have been accused, right? If they have been accused of being minors but pretending to be adults, Discord might take actions on it, and we'll look into that in a bit. And so I make use of the show me all my data feature that they have. Deep in the settings, it gives me insights to what info they have. Oh, that one. I actually have requested it. I've actually requested it, but I'm still waiting. I haven't gotten my personal data, but I thought I would be able to have time to go through it, use it. But oh well, we'll add it as some sort of like additional information, maybe on Twitter or somewhere else, if I find anything different, new to talk about. But for now, let's see what Discord tells us the information means. What do they mean? What does it include? Right, account information. So simple. When you create an account, you probably would give Discord your username, your password, as well as your email address and phone number, right? Of course, you also provide your birthday, and also if they need to verify your account, you need to verify your phone number. So that's also, double the need for phone numbers. And that's account information. Very basic. I don't think I have to explain that. Content you create. So this is the, we are back to the controversy again, the controversial section that we talked about earlier. Content you create. So for Discord, personal information is content, literally everything that involves content. This includes any content that you upload to the service. Example, all right, so this is example. It's not exhaustive. It's not just these few things. Messages or posts, including drafts, voice messages, custom emojis, short recordings of go live activity, upload and share files through the services, right? So this is just a few things, but logical, whatever content, that is content. So yeah, and we have profile information, things that I would say people don't normally utilize unless they how do you say, I like content creators, because how I use it is just I put all my information, my sort of like short bio information on what am I, who am I, profile information. Right, so back again with this one. I don't think I have to explain this again. So yes, they have put it back. They have put this 2 sentences back. So for at least those that are worried that your video calls or voice calls will be recorded, you don't have to worry too much. Though I do have to highlight that they say generally do not store the contents of video or voice calls or channels. Right? They say generally. It means sometimes they will. But they don't say when, right? They don't say when. But they did say they will tell you, all right? Would disclose that to you in advance. But yes, for stream content, it's absolutely no. They're saying they don't store streaming content at all, right? But we'll get into that also again. Getting back to this one, what does this mean? So does it really mean that your voice calls, your video calls, or your channels are absolutely free from Discord's eyes, so to speak, right? Do they totally don't see what you're streaming? Do they totally don't see what your voice calls are, or what your video calls are, or what contains in your channels, right? They're saying that they don't store. They are not saying you're not monitoring. Okay, so we get into that later. All right. Impossible. They still need some of this info. Yes, of course. So yeah, moving on. Payment information. I don't think I have to talk about this too naturally. That's why there's no red highlights. Mostly just yellow highlights. So Discord has Nitro. Discord has Boost, where you can use money to pay them. And when you use money to pay them, you probably are providing personal information again to Discord, or in this case, payment processors like Stripe and PayPal, right? You'll be providing them your full name, your billing address, probably your credit card number, and all this stuff to make payment possible. All right. So these are all the things that are likely for you to provide to Discord. All right, makes sense. I don't think we have to talk too much about it. Information from actions you take. We collect information about your use of Discord and your activities on the services. So whatever you're doing, meaning when you add someone as a friend, friends you add, the users, the bots, the apps you engage with, right? Anyone who you interact with, the games you play on your device, the servers on or other communities you join in and participate in, your roles in servers, content moderation decisions you make, information about purchases or sales you make, or you go or through Discord, including what you purchased or sold and other related actions. You can control whether we collect, use, and display this information as described in the How to Control Privacy section below. So yeah, there are certain things that you can tell Discord, don't show this to people or don't collect this information. So yes, but most of the things that whatever you're doing in Discord, they know, right? Discord knows, right? When you ban someone, when you kick someone, when you mute someone, it's all recorded. And what sort of servers or really anything you can think of yet you're doing in Discord, they know. Discord knows at least the time when you do it. All right. Then we have Discord makes it clear the Nitro subscription agreement that any fraud, financial, or even filing a dispute can lead to account termination. Yes, I would say that's logical, very rational. Information used to enable optional features. Certain features like contact syncing may require that you provide additional information or grant us access to such information to make them work. Alright, so this is more or less if let's say you want to somehow connect your Facebook friends with Discord or something, you can do that. But of course, you have to allow Discord to access information in regards to your Facebook friend list. I don't know why you want to connect Facebook. I'm biased, all right? I'm biased with Facebook. I will never try to intentionally connect Facebook, my Facebook account with Discord account. There's a reason Discord exists and why most people like it. Right, then over here, other information you provide directly to us. You may have the option to submit additional information as you use Discord. For example, you may choose to participate in our verified server program, which requires that you provide additional information about yourself or your company. Or you may participate in surveys where you can provide feedbacks on the services or submit information to our Discord to support teams. So this is something that you are willingly providing to Discord. And this is things that they're only telling you what information they're collecting. They're not telling you what they're going to do this information, all right? All this is under the information we collect. What they're going to be using it for, it comes much later. So yeah. Then we have information we collect automatically. So these are all very, I would say again, logical things. I don't think I have to explain, but I do have mentioned the highlights. So information about your device, like your IP address, operating system information, browser information, and information about your device settings, such as your microphone and or camera. All right. So do remember, all this information is provided to Discord whenever you use a device to log in, whether it's your mobile phone, whether it's your PC, and when you're talking to people, of course, you have to select your microphone, as well as if you're doing video calls, you have to select your camera as well. All this information have to be fed into Discord, and they will collect all this information automatically. And we have information about your use of the apps or websites. All right, so they collect log and event information related to how and when you use our services. So meaning to say, when you go and visit their pages, servers, channels, the activities you engage in, or the embedded content you interact with. Yeah, so whenever you post a YouTube video or TikTok video or Twitter video or whatever it is, that's embedded content, and that they will also know, right? They will also know. Other information that we collect automatically, other stuff. When we take certain actions on other sites, we may receive information about you. For example, we will advertise for Discord on third-party platforms. If you click on the ad, we may receive information about which ad you saw and on which platform. Similarly, we may also receive certain information when you click on a referral link, such as which website you came from. This is I would say, very basic website knowledge in a sense. Whenever you click a link, whenever you browse something, they will find out, they will know, right? Click an ad, they will know all that. So don't simply click ads. Then we have information from cookies. So this is, I wish I remember the things I've looked into cookies, but from my memory, cookies are not mostly good, right? Not a good thing, at least ethically or something, because I know a lot of websites tells people that it's compulsory to have certain cookies enabled for services to work. But I've heard that certain cookies, certain websites or certain apps forces you to use cookies, even if it's not for the purposes of having the websites or whatever apps to function correctly, and if you don't want to accept them, there's no way to use them. You can't click away from them, you can't do anything, you're just stuck there. There's a lot of those sort of websites, and at least for Discord, I'm not sure if they force you to use cookies or not. Probably not, because they have here strictly necessary cookies. These are required for services to function and to meet our legal obligations. If you try to use tools to disable these cookies, parts of the services may not work properly. So they are saying, they're not saying you can manually disable them through the Discord, but probably through other third-party tools. But they are more tailored browser user identifiers. But not my field, so I can't really say much about it. Information received from other sources. So this is things about third parties, right? Including from other users, third parties, information from those places, and combine that information with the other information we have about you. For example, we interact with our social media account on another platform. We may receive certain information about you, like your username on that platform, right? Very, very basic, but they have to list out everything that they are able to collect from you, right? That's why all this, everything, this about the cookies, about other third-party information that they can get anywhere, all right? They have to list it out because they have to comply with the law, simply. With those cookies that keep you logged in, disabling those would cause login issues. Yeah, if they were because of that, but I do understand, there are certain websites like news articles, or some website that don't require you to log in to use them, still forces you to accept cookies. So there's that. How we use your information. All right, so we're now at the second part of the privacy policy. And as you can see, there's still a lot. All right, how do they use your information? To fulfill their contract with you. So what does this mean? To provide you with the services, right? So what does it mean? We use your information to provide you with these Discord services. And for example, when you start a video call, pre-process your images and audio to make that work. Yeah, so they have to do that, right? Kind of contradictory, right? They're saying they don't store your video call, but they still have to process your image and audio to make them work, right? So take that, take that in mind, okay? They say they don't store your personal data, but storing your personal data doesn't necessarily mean processing your data, okay? We similarly collect and store the messages you send and display them as you direct. We also use the information you provide to us to create and manage your account and to facilitate purchases. When you enable optional features like connecting your Discord account to other platforms, We use information from those services to power the feature, like displaying what song you are listening to on another service within the Discord app. So this is pretty clear cut, right? For their app to function, for Discord to function, these are necessary, right? If you want to use voice calls, you have to give Discord your voice. If you want to show your face to other people in Discord, you have to show your face to Discord first. Everything has to go through Discord to process them in order to provide that service for you. Maybe it's semantics to clarify that this info has to be transferred from client and users to their servers, but it's not retained outside of the time required to transmit packets to the other person. Yes, it doesn't. Yeah, although it means it's not stored in Discord server, it doesn't mean it's not processed through Discord server, right? Storing refers to actually retaining this information out of processing. As a voice over IP service, this is standard. Yeah. Then we move on, of course, to meet our commitments to Discord community. So what does this mean? We work hard to try to make Discord a safe, positive, and inclusive place. To do so, we use your information to monitor for and take action against users and content that violate our terms of service with community guidelines and other policies. This includes responding to user reports, generating transcriptions of content as part of our investigation, detecting fraud and malware, and proactively scanning attachments and other content for illegal and harmful content. We also use certain information which may include content reported to us. Content violates the terms, and certain other content widely available on the service, such as public posts, usernames, avatars, banners, user profiles, server names, server icons, and server banners, to create systems and models that can be automated to more swiftly detect, categorize, and take actions against prohibited content or conduct. Right, so this is something that people don't know, is you can't simply do anything in Discord. It is a place for you to communicate with people, socialize with people, but it is a community. It is a sort of a virtual society. And if you do something that the society doesn't like you doing, the community doesn't like you doing, or you're doing something illegal, or you're doing something that is in breach of the terms of service, they will take actions against you, right? Where whatever in that form, whatever personal data that would help them to do that will be utilized. For instance, all right, if you're committing some sort of a from what I understand, the things that actually happen, I've researched on Discord, is that I think during the US election, people use Discord to try and how do you say, organize violent protests or something like that. So that happened. So now if anyone who tries to organize this sort of violent protests or try to plan any sort of insurgency or commit any crime, anyone can report to Discord on these matters. And once you have reported on these matters, Discord will actively look into whatever server you are in. They will look into whatever actions you are doing from that point in time. Even if, let's say, they can't store your video calls, your voice calls, or your streaming content, right? From that point, they probably will secretly look at whatever you're doing, right? For the sake of doing their investigation as to the truth of the matter, and probably at the end have all this evidence, have all these things reported to the appropriate authorities to handle, right? So that's why I keep telling you, Yes, they don't store your data, but that doesn't mean you're risk-free. Nobody is listening to you. Nobody knows what you're doing, so you can do whatever you want. No, that's not how things work. That's not how Discord works. If you want that kind of secrecy, this is not a place. Find it somewhere else. I don't know where, but don't ask me. Okay, don't ask me. I had completely innocuous images get flagged before, probably because their algos figured it was similar to X content. Compliance with a subpoena, other order from a court of law. That is in compliance with court orders and such. That's kind of different. That's kind of different. What I'm referring to is, if let's say someone is being racist in a very, very simple manner, being racist in a voice call, in a streaming, when they are sharing screen or that they are sharing a lot of racist stuff or all that, can't be traced normally, right? Because there's no actual recording, there's no actual storage of this sort of stuff happening. But once you report it, someone else, reports these users for doing all this stuff, they will find out. They'll monitor you. That's why over here it says, we use your information to monitor for and take action against users and content that violate our terms of service, human guidelines, and other policies. So yeah, the thing that you're talking about, Pungyo, is if somehow law enforcement or the court requires Discord to provide some sort of information because they are doing. They are trying to. They found out they have sources to say that criminal activity is happening within Discord, and with the appropriate, warrants, orders, or anything like that. Yeah, Discord will have to comply with that. But this is not the thing, right? This is not the category. It's down there. All right, we'll talk about that in a sec. Right. Then, of course, we have these two simple things. I don't think I have to get into too much. To contact you and to provide customer service. All right, so yes, they need your personal information to contact you. I can't really say much what I can explain on this. And then provide customer service. And yes, again, when you need their customer service, you probably have to provide some sort of information to them, right? That's it, right? That's it. I think this is a good segue, kind of, to tell you that regardless of whether you think you're safe, right? Whether you think your conversations are private or otherwise, never ever share your password. Things like your password, all right? Share things that you don't want people to share, which might be harmful to you. Right? Share your password, share your bank account details, share your PIN number, or share anything that would identify you as in your real life. Don't do that. Whoever it is you're talking to, don't do it. All right. Even if it's a social platform that is very safe, don't do it. You never know whether it's the service provider, secretly monitoring you, or someone else that has much more nefarious reasons to look into your conversations, right? So to keep it in mind. Right, for our legitimate business interests. So this is the second category of what purposes are they using this information for, right? So to protect our services, we use information to keep our services secure, to prevent misuse, and to enforce our terms of service and other policies against users who violate them. Right? So put, moderation and all that stuff. To report on our company's performance, we use information to track the fundamental metrics of our businesses, to perform financial reporting, to respond to regulatory obligations, and to debug billing issues, right? So this is simply, probably calculating their revenue, their profits, and all that stuff. And they have to probably provide this information to investors, to stakeholders, all those kind of people that requires this sort of information. right? And as well as how, overall the company is doing in all aspects of their operation, of their business. Then we have personalized the product. We use your information to personalize our services. This is pretty common. This information powers our discovery services so that you see relevant communities or content first, highlights, notifications, and similar features, and it helps us service Discord features and promotions from us and our partners that may be of interest to you. As discussed in the How to Control Privacy section below, you can choose to what extent we will use your personal information to personalize your Discord experience. So this is something you can control as well, right? To improve our services, I think I don't really need to discuss all this. That's why I only highlighted the category of it. It's the category is simple enough. I would say self-explanatory enough that I don't really need to get into it. So we're moving on to advertise our services on Discord and other platforms, and again to contact you. Right, third category of what purposes is it being used for? Regards to information to comply with our legal obligations. So this is where Pungyu just mentioned potential legal claims when necessary and for compliance, regulatory, and auditing purposes. For example, required by law, or we are compelled to do so by a court order or regulatory body. So when you exercise any of the applicable legal rights to access, amend, or delete your personal information, we may request additional information from you for the purpose of confirming your identity. So yeah, other than the relevant authority, law enforcement, or any sort of regulatory body, you yourself can ask for this sort of personal information as well, because you have rights. Then we have with your consent, right? Very basic. This is I would say kind of just repeating what most laws are telling companies to how to utilize a personal information. So one of the major thing is whenever you want to use a person's personal information, they require consent. So they're telling you they will only use any personal information that is inclusive, where you have provided consent, right? Such as to send your marketing communications where legally required. You can revoke your consent at any time, mostly through our service directly, though note that you might not be able to use any service or feature that requires collection or use of that personal information. Right. To protect someone's vital interest, when we collect or share personal data, yeah, this is interesting. If we think someone's life is in danger, for example, to help resolve an urgent medical situation. I don't know when this has happened before, but this is according to law. From what I've researched on, if someone's life is in danger, if someone's life is requires this sort of personal information to be provided, to be utilized, then whether you have given consent or not, they will use this personal information for that purpose. For example, I'm assuming if, let's say, a criminal activity is happening somewhere and someone reported that, and in order to call the law enforcement for them to take actions, they probably require this person's address or something, or requires this person's phone number, real name, whatever it is, to identify where this person is in order to save this person or prevent this person from committing crime, right? There also could be instances, how do I say this? People wanting to unalive themselves. This is also would fit in this category as well, right? To protect someone's vital interest when someone's life is in danger. So probably have to call the hospital as well if this is found out. This is very, I would say, very rational, very logical reason why a person's personal information would be used without their consent and would be out of the ordinary in terms of, you know, what Discord is being used for. It's a social platform. It's not a place to save people's life, but when such a situation presents itself, they are not really obligated to do it, but they are capable of doing it. Right? Right, so that's all the things about how they will be using their your information, your personal information. So again, nothing about them selling your information. They have not said anything about selling your information to any third party. So for anyone who is worried about it, you don't have to worry, okay? You don't have to worry. But again, if you're asking me, but what if they are selling your information? Then I'm going to tell you, I don't know, because this privacy policy tells you that they can't. All right, they literally explicitly tell you they are not going to sell your information. If they are breaking the law, right? They're breaking the law, and I can't do much about that. All right, I can tell you it's fine. Or anyway, literally, if they're going to, break the law, they're going to break the law. I would say the factors you have to consider is whether you trust Discord or not. Do they have a reputation of, breaching the privacy laws, right? And what sort of privacy laws are they breaching? You have to be more specific. You have to consider all that to determine, are they doing things behind the scenes without us knowing, right? So moving on, we have the third part we have to talk about, and I think this is the last one, more or less. There are other stuff that this privacy policy also covers. We'll talk about them in a sec. How we disclose your information. I don't know why I haven't highlighted this. When you tell us to. So when, all right, how we disclose your information. When you tell us to. So when would we tell Discord to disclose the information? Right, so when you add your content to the services, simply put, right, whenever you message, whenever you do voice calls, whenever you do video calls, whenever you do streaming, whenever you share something, a picture, a video, whatever it is, that is when you're telling Discord, to disclose this information. You are telling us to make that content available to certain people or communities. Yeah. Who can access information is determined by who can access a particular space. So the rest of it is just telling you how Discord works. When you message someone in your friends list, they are the only ones who is going to see it. If you are messaging someone who in a server, a community, those are the people that will see it. If you are only messaging people in a certain group within the server, etc., that is what they're trying to say. All right, but other than that, however you do it, whoever you provide this sort of communication to, share this sort of anything with these people, that is when you're telling Discord that it's okay. That is when it is okay to share this information to people. Right. Of course, there is also this, right, with our vendors, right? We may provide information to vendors we hire to carry out specific work for us. This includes payment processors, right? So the same thing, Stripe and PayPal that process transactions on our behalf, and cloud providers. So this is something I didn't really know, but probably makes sense that they use Google Cloud, I guess, to store data, host their data and their services, right? So they work together with Stripe, PayPal, as well as Google to make their services work. We may also provide limited information to advertising platforms to help us reach people that we think will like our products and to measure the performance of our ads shown on those platforms. We do this to help bring more users to Discord and make our business successful, and provide only the information required to facilitate these services. This may include information that the fact that you installed our app or registered to use Discord. Right? Make sense? All right. To comply with the law. Right. So this is not. I don't think I can. How do you say much? Yep. They will use your information to comply with law. To tell them, I'm doing all these things. I'm collecting all this information from all these users, but I'm doing it according to law. They have to do that, right? I'm not sure how many times do the European Union relevant department in terms of monitoring or regulating this sort of privacy laws does often. But yes, most likely they have to provide some sort of information that is related to ours to these regulatory bodies, to meet the requirements of the law. Man, am I saying too much? Anyways, moving on. In an emergency, right? This is I think going back to the point of saving someone's life. We may disclose information if we believe in good faith that it's necessary to prevent serious harm to a person. Right. To enforce our policies and rights, we may disclose information if needed to enforce our terms of service, community guidelines, or others' policies, or to protect the rights, property, and safety of ourselves and others. So, one situation I think this would be relevant is, someone denies that they did something that's in violation of the terms of service or community guidelines. Then Discord would be able to utilize this personal information against these people who are saying they are not violating it. So yeah, this is logical, rational. So far, I've read until halfway through this privacy policy. I don't see anything that is, could be considered unfavorable to users, people who are using Discord, right? I don't see there's any nefarious or malicious intent actions that could be used with this privacy policy. So yeah, but maybe I'm biased, I'm not sure. But if people do see it, do let me know, all right? Do let me know. Because I'm only just one person. I can't, pick out all the nuances. I can't pick out every possible loophole, regardless of whether I'm a legal expert or not. I'm only human. Right, next is with our related companies. So, of course, Discord is not just a single company. They probably have a lot of subsidiaries, have parent companies, and anything that is related to Discord. They most likely have to share all this information with each other, right? We may provide information to our related companies, including parents, affiliates, subsidiaries, and other companies under common control and ownership. Again, whatever information they provide to these, related companies, you might be thinking, the company that is related to Discord might be in the business of selling and buying information. That may be true, right? But again, this information has to be restricted to its purposes, right? To its use. If they are going to be providing this information to companies that do sell or buy information, they're going to be contradicting their privacy policy, right? Are we against the law? Right, moving on. Sale, acquisition, or transfer assets. We may disclose information if Discord is evaluating and or engaging in a merger, acquisition, reorganization, and bankruptcy, or sale, transfer, or charge in ownership of Discord or any of its assets. Yeah. So this is more or less if somehow Discord sells the company, becomes bankrupt, merges with other companies or anything, they have to disclose this information. This is just logic, right? This is just simple logic. Then we have aggregated or de-identified information. We may disclose information that has been aggregated or anonymized such that it cannot reasonably be used to identify you. For example, we may share aggregated user statistics in order to describe our business to partners or the public. So this is more towards, most likely how many users in total are using Discord, as well as the total revenue or profit or cost in regards to, how the company is doing. So yeah, aggregated. This sort of information won't be able to identify you personally. Then we have data retention. Yeah, we've come to this one. This I would kind of say this is the semi-fourth category, which I think, don't quote me on this, Discord only recently added. They only recently added. Okay, so what is data retention? We retain personal information until we determine it is no longer needed for the processing purposes for which we collected or retain it for legal compliance. We can learn more about data retention periods in our data retention policy, right? So why did I say this is a new thing, right? It's because, as you can see, it's 8 days now. Oops. So yeah, I'm not sure. This is probably the updated date, right? It was recently updated 8 days ago. Kind of, how do you say, relevant. It's kind of relevant to the recent controversy that happened, but not really. I think this is more towards the this one, the Discord getting fined for 800,000 euros news, which happened on November, I guess around November last year, right? So I guess they have been regularly updating this retention policy, right? Suffice to say, I won't go into details about this one, but it's simply where it tells you what happens when you delete your messages, what happens when you delete your account, what happens when you delete anything while you're using Discord, and whether those information is kept and for how long, right? So those are all those things they're put in here, right? So I'm just going to read through the highlighted things I put here. So over here, once you delete, they say, once you delete content, it will no longer be available to other users. So to other users, all right? But not Discord. Deleted content will also be deleted from Discord systems, but we may retain content longer if we have a legal obligation to preserve it as described below. Public posts may also be retained for 180 days to 2 years for use by Discord. Right. So normally speaking, if there's nothing going on with your message, right, or the things that you have put up in Discord, it would also be deleted from Discord system, right? But for legal obligations, certain things are required to be retained for a certain amount of time, but not forever, right? Nothing is retained forever, at least according to this retention policy. Then we have information retained until your account is deleted. Yeah, so what happens when an account is deleted? In what information? Information about how you use Discord, right? Information like your username, email, and phone number. may be kept for longer periods for specific purposes, as described below. You can delete your account at any time, and if your account is inactive for 2 years, they may delete it for you, right? So this is I think the thing that Discord made a mistake, is that they didn't dealt with accounts that was inactive for more than 2 years, right? But now they're going to be deleting it at their discretion. And we have retention periods for specific purposes. So depending on the purposes, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different type of purposes. These specific types of information will be retained for a specific amount of time. So first off, so if let's say you have been found out to, or have been accused that you're not an adult, Discord would require age verification, right? And you would have to submit an ID to verify how old you are. So, yep, this is a thing, right? If you lie about being an adult, Discord will take actions into making sure this is true or this is not true, right? So, in order to do that, you have to provide them an identity card or some sort of document that will identify you as a person and is old enough. But of course, after you provided this document, they will delete it after within 60 days. After it has been after the age appeal ticket is closed. And we have backups. For the purposes of backup data, they will store 30 to 45 days, upon which they are deleted. This is something I am uncertain. They didn't specify what sort of database. I'm guessing if they're saying database backups stored for 30 to 45 days, meaning the entire database. But I can kind of interpret it as not including voice calls, video calls, or streaming content, right? As they say, they don't generally store it, and database backups are a place where you store, data, all right? So this won't include those. Then we have the third purpose, compliance with our legal obligations. Yeah, this is what we heard, we touched on earlier. So, what example? Purchase something. When you purchase something through Discord, we need to retain information related to that transaction for specific periods for tax and accounting purposes. Right, so this one, they don't exactly say what time period, but of course not forever, only until for tax and accounting purposes. Then they have to meet our safety and security commitments. What information does this include? Email addresses and phone numbers. For how long? 180 days after deletion for trust and safety purposes. But, as a but, if a user has been reported or flagged for violations or our terms of service or community guidelines, we retain this information for up to 2 years. So this is, I would say, when this happens is, they provide a example. So we just read this. This information helps us keep Discord secure, prevent fraud, or prevent bad actors from creating new accounts or otherwise engaging in behavior that violates our policies. So I guess this is a way, but not necessarily effective, is, a lot of times people get banned from social media platforms, but they, come around using a different email, using a different username, or everything to do that. So at least, they can't use the same email to come back to the platform. So there's that. And that's why they are keeping this information for 2 years, right? If you don't keep this information for 2 years, you just immediately delete it, then they can just come back again with the same email, with the same username or phone number for that fact. And we have to exercise and defend legal claims. Same thing. When you contact Discord directly, such as for customer support inquiries and requests to access your information, retain related information for 5 years from the closure of your request in case of a dispute, or to exercise our or defend our legal rights. Yeah. So more or less, this is, if let's say, yeah, you have a complaint with Discord, or you want to access your information, I would say there's 2 reasons. One is they want to show that they have serviced the user properly, right? They have to have a record to say that, we have been professional in dealing with this user, so that in the event in the future that this user wants to come back and complain about us again, or possibly take legal actions against Discord, they would have proof that they have done the necessary. Or the other thing is that the user has requested information, access information about themselves. Discord doesn't want later on that this sort of users come back and tell them why was my information accessed, blah blah blah, accuse Discord of of misusing their personal information. So rather than that happening, they will store this sort of conversations, this sort of requests for access for information for a period of time until things will cool down, I guess. Then we have continuity of our service. If you delete your account, we continue to retain and display the content you shared with other users, but that content is no longer tied to your account. We do this in order to ensure that other users continue access to the content shared with them. If you want to delete specific content, please do so before you delete your account. You can delete specific content as described in the information you can delete directly from the user services section above. Yeah, so I think this is normal. I would say even if you even if you delete your account, even if, let's say, normally I would say the circumstances would be someone leaving or getting kicked or getting banned from a server. Whatever they shared, whatever they said in those servers will still remain as such. I'm guessing this is the same thing as even when a user deletes their account. Right, all those stuff still stay there. Right, so I won't really go into this as well. What happens when you delete your account? Again, this is not really relevant to what we are discussing right now. But yeah, do take note that your personal information is retained for a specific amount of days, depending on what the purposes is used for in regards to this personal information. Right, then I think I will go back to the privacy policy. We're only halfway through. Let me get some drink. All right. How we protect your information? Very short. All right. I can't really say much about this because I have no idea what they're talking about, but they're saying they are providing some sort of security measure in terms of protecting your personal information, right, from people that are not supposed to use your personal information. Right, so they say all the information sent within our services is encrypted, both in transit and at rest. Encrypted in the sense I've kind of asked a friend of this, and what it means is that if, let's say, someone messages in a server or in a direct message or anywhere, and there's a third party, there's an individual that is not part of this server, that's not part of the group, it's not part of the friend list or anyone, and they want to find out what you have said. If they want to do that, they have to decrypt these messages. They probably have to first find where to find your message. Of course, afterwards they have to decrypt it, because the things they are probably looking at is a jumbled mess. I don't know. I'm just this is not within my field. I'm just guessing, imagining how this works. But other than that, yes, they're telling you all information, right? All the information is encrypted, both when it is being transported and where it finishes, or where it stops or reaches. For example, we use transport layer security, I have no idea what it is, to encrypt text and images in transit. We also enforce technical and administrative access controls to limit which of our employees and contractors have access to non-public personal information. You can help maintain the security of your account by configuring two-factor authentication. Right, so this one, I guess it actually is good for them to say this, is that not everyone in Discord is able to see everything, have all the personal information that is provided to the Discord. So that's good. That is at least good. It narrows down to the possibility of personal information being misused by someone outside, right? Because if only a trusted select people will be managing all this personal information. Right, moving on. How to control your privacy. So this one, really, it's how do I say this? I would say this is not really in what Discord is legally obligated to do, right? This is more or less telling users how to protect themselves. Okay, how to protect themselves and how to customize their privacy settings and all that. I appreciate them for telling you all that you can do all these things, although very brief, of course, right? They tell you, to be aware of the Discord space you choose to participate in. You can choose what communities to participate in and what information you add to our services. You can choose what messages to send or post, who to engage with, or one or more particular users, or potentially unlimited group of users, what information to include in your profile, whether to connect any third parties. Oh my goodness, excuse me. I got hiccups. Third-party services to your Discord account and more. For example, if you share content in certain spaces, such as servers listed in server discovery or with public invite links, your content may be accessed by anyone. Right. And we have customized your personal Discord settings, which I think a lot of people did. A lot of people try and think this is going to be helpful for them in terms of keeping their conversation private, keeping their servers private, or whatever it is they think helps. But I'm going to tell you this is not going to help you make your private conversations more hidden or more secretive, or from outer sites of Discord. As you can see, the specific things I can do is only limit Discord's ability to use your data to improve their service, right? For improving services only. We offer certain settings that allow you to limit the information we collect to help us understand how users use our services, what features or products they may want, or to otherwise help us improve our business. If you turn off these settings, we'll stop collecting and using certain event and log information as described in these settings. Right. Limit our ability to personalize Discord for you. We offer certain settings that control whether or how we may personalize Discord for you, such as offering you relevant recommendations for in-app content and features. If these settings are disabled, we will stop collecting and using certain event and log information as described in these settings. I would say there's also, the other concern with people, the general mass, is that Discord is introducing AI technology to its application, and people are afraid that it's going to be automatically collecting certain personal information that they don't want to share. I don't think they probably have some sort of like AI art generator thing, but I don't think it collects. It's going to, you collect everyone's art posted in Discord. Don't think so. But then again, it hasn't been implemented yet. We'll have to find out if that's true or not when more information comes around about it. Now, so okay, then there is delete or disable your account. So that's one way to control your personal information by deleting or disabling your account. If you disable your account, it is just stopping the processing of your new data, right? But of course, disabling your account means that you're not using your account. So I don't see why Discord still be able to get any sort of information. But yes, then you delete your account. If you delete your account, yes, everything that you've provided to Discord will be deleted as well in their server, right? But of course, there will be information that they will anonymize, right? As we look into the retention policy, there are things that will still be stored for a specific amount of time or specific purposes. Moving on, manage your content and service. Yep, this is pretty much telling you how to do things that can help your server, help your own experience in using Discord more private, more controlled, control who can see what you do and such. But again, content may be retained by Discord for use as described elsewhere in this policy and our data retention policy. Also, in limited circumstances, we may have a legal obligation to retain certain information, even if you delete the information or your account. Yes, always remember that deleting something doesn't mean it is poof gone from Discord. Discord will still retain some of that personal information. Access your information. Yeah, so this one is everyone, right? Every user is capable of extracting all the personal data, personal information that Discord has collected from you up to that point in time that you request. You can do that in any of in your Discord's user settings or somewhere over there. Just click on it, but it will take time, right? It says it will take at least or not at least within 30 days to process everything and then send it to you, right? So with this method, you can find out what information does Discord collect from you and decide for yourself whether that sort of information is something you don't want Discord to collect. Maybe you have to contact them and such. Or if Discord can't do anything about it, they have to collect the information. They probably have to decide if you want to continue using Discord because of it. But for me, I'm still waiting. I'm going to see if there's any problem with it. If there is, I will let everyone know. All right, I will let everyone know. Then we have managed cookies. Again, this is not within my field. I can't tell you how important this is and what this would affect in terms of managing cookies, as I will have to leave to someone else that's an expert in this to educate you all. So we'll be skipping that part, unfortunately. Then we have international data transfers. I would briefly explain this. This just means, yes, this is the reason why, Discord has to comply with a bunch of different countries and unions laws, because the information this is being transferred is not to only a single country, a single server. It's not being transferred to the US only. It's being transferred to all different parts of the world. And because of that, all different parts of the world have different privacy laws, and they have laws governing in regards to this sort of international transfers of data, right? So yeah, United States, and Discord, we are based, Discord says they are based in the United States, and they process and store information on servers located in the United States. They also store information on servers and equipment in other countries, right? So because of that, your information will be processed, transferred, and stored in the US and other countries where different data protection standards may apply, and or you may not have the same rights as you do under local law. You come back from bath and can't hear your stream. Oh, is there a problem? I don't think there's a problem. It hasn't dropped any frames. Internet is fine. But welcome back, Punyo. Anyways, so yeah, this is just me highlighting what this is all the applicable laws is all about, but it's fine. You don't necessarily have to learn about this, okay? But I do have to point out they have a link that is inaccessible. I don't know why. It's broken. Yeah, you can't even click on it. It doesn't do anything. Page not found. So I don't know what this is. Adequacy decisions. But suffice to say, yeah, this is another layer of protection, I guess, in terms of how your data is being processed. When it's traveling from one country to another country, in a sense. Oh, this part, I really needed clarification with this. There's not much to say. It's just that if I try to explain it, it's probably too complicated because there's so many nuance into it. But suffice to say, it's basically if, let's say, information is traveling from one country to another country, there is specific laws governing it, right? But more or less, it's the same. It's just extra. You have to take extra care in how this is transferred, how information is being transferred, so that it doesn't get leaked out or it doesn't get hijacked by people. Right. So that's why I highlighted it over here. You also be able to invoke binding arbitration to resolve your complaint, subject to the investigatory enforcement powers of the US Federal Trade Commission. In some cases, we may be liable for the transfer of personal data from the EU, Switzerland, or the UK to a third party outside those countries. Yeah. Then, of course, services offered by third parties. And again, can't really explain this too much. It's just basically Discord telling you that third parties would also be gathering, collecting, utilizing your information. And for them, Discord has no control over them. They have policies telling them, how they have to write how do you say this? These third parties have to provide their own privacy policies. Sorry. They have to provide their own privacy policies in according to how Discord dictates it, right? But they have no control how they word it. They have no control how they draft it, that stuff. And what do they actually collect? What information do they collect? So, yeah, this is the part where it is possible, it's possible where your information might be sold. Your information might be used for something that is not within Discord's privacy policy use, right? But that is not Discord's problem, because these third parties are most likely bots, the bots that you have included into your server, you have utilized them for whatever reason. They are going to be accessing information that you have allowed them to access. And how they use those information is according to their privacy policy, right? So do take note of that. If you're using something like what you call emotes, customized emotes to there are bots that provide you customized emotes. There are also bots that automatically assign roles to users or reminders or anything like that. Bots, there's a lot of different kinds of bots, but all of them have their own privacy policies that you probably have accepted. You haven't read. You probably do need to read them. So yeah. Data protection officer. So this is the rest of the things I don't really don't think it's cause for concern. They are just telling you, yes, all these countries, whatever countries it is, they specify, you have the right to do something about with your personal information that is being collected, right? I would say this is relevant to those people that probably to companies or anyone that deals with sensitive information, share sensitive information, maybe trade secrets in Discord itself. They probably would want to find out all the possible things they can do, to prevent Discord from sharing this sort of information to everyone. So that's why they are telling you, if you're in this country, you can do this. If you're in this US state, you can do this, etc., etc. Right? But other than that, again, so back to the statement where I said Discord also complies with California, because most likely because they reside in California, company is in California. It also tell you, if you're a citizen, if you live in California, the California Consumer Privacy Act also applies, right? And they again tell, I guess, re-emphasize that they don't sell personal information, right? No sale or share of personal information. The CCPA sets forth certain obligations for businesses that sell or share personal information. We do not sell or share the personal information of our users as defined in the CCPA. We do disclose certain information as outlined in the How We Disclose Your Information section above, and you can make choices with respect to your information as outlined in this policy. Right. So that's it. Yeah, that's the end. Oof. Is that long? Kind of long, as I expected. We reached our 2 hours mark. We reached 2 hours mark. But yes, that's the entirety of privacy policy. It's not complicated. It's just that it covers a lot of different areas. Thank you for the hydrate. It's not complicated. Again, it's more or less very detailed. It's very simplified for people to understand, and it's like, yeah, 3 categories. What sort of information do they collect? How do they use this information, and how do they disclose this information? Share this information to people, whether to certain people or not, to bodies, to companies, to government, to regulatory bodies, whoever it is, that they all. Discord has told you everything, how they are going to be using this, how they are going to be using your personal information. So if there's anything they haven't said that they're going to be using your information, if there's anything they have said that they won't collect from you, would be the things that they can't do, right? Simple as such. So they can't sell. So what are the things? All right, they obviously can't do anything illegal with your personal information. They can't use it to do criminal activities. They can't sell it to the black market or whatever it is that you think they might be doing with their personal information. They won't be selling it to information brokers who would use this for advertisement, and I think there's also some people that are worried the things that you write in Discord, your interests, the things you shared, your hobbies, movies, animes, or whatever it is, the games you played, and suddenly you in other places that you browse will also suddenly pop up advertisements or content that you have actually had a conversation about with your friends or family in Discord. No, that's not going to happen, right? That's not going to happen. Or if it happens, it's your confirmation bias telling you, oh, it must be Discord doing all these things. But people don't realize that you use all sorts of social platforms. You're using Twitter, you're using Google, you're using Facebook, you're using Instagram, you're using TikTok. All of them are social platforms that possibly would find out would have some sort of a AI algorithm to find out your patterns, your behavior, right? It doesn't necessarily have to know what you say, right? They just have to they could even just know what you have clicked on, what you have searched on, what you are looking at, what content you are looking at the most. All of those, it's possible to find out what sort of things you like and don't like. Thank you for looking into this, Jake. Very in-depth and accessible as always. No, no problem. I do hope it is sufficient, but I'm not done yet. There is still one part I have to kind of briefly talk about. All right. So yeah, over here I say, does Discord, I would like to conclude on Discord privacy policy here. Does Discord store video calls or voice calls or, channels? Generally do not. Means yes, they do, when other times they do store unspecified. So yeah, again, the specific wording is we generally do not store the contents of videos or voice calls. So again, they do, right? But I have to emphasize this. They probably do store content or contents of videos or voice calls for the specific purposes they have mentioned in their privacy policy only. They're not going to be using it for, I don't know, personal enjoyment, or again for commercial use or whatever, trying to profit your video call or voice call for whatever reason, right? That is something we can try to consider at least, But of course, for streaming content, they expressly clearly say they don't store, right? They don't store. There's no generally, or there's no exception other than them saying they retain the thumbnail cover image for the stream for a short period of time. I didn't know this. Apparently, when you share screen in a server, it means that there will be a thumbnail. Didn't know about that. I guess there is going to be a thumbnail. But other than that, I don't know if there's going to be a problem. People don't want their thumbnails being shared, no idea. Again, I can't see the fear being generated from this exclusion of this term of these terms from the privacy policy, other than it makes people uncomfortable that Discord is able to access this personal information, this sort of voice calls or video calls, right? I'd really just not to offend anyone. My understanding is probably because people aren't educated on what its privacy policy is, and they just are fearful because of all the things that companies have done in the past with people's personal information for profit without their consent, secretly, all that. but you have to realize privacy laws is still privacy laws in terms of the internet is still very new. The GDPR is like, I think 2018. Let me look at it. When is the GDPR? 2016. Yeah. And implemented on 2018. It's only been 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 years. The law is only 6 years old. It's very new compared to a lot of other laws. So yeah, I would understand why a lot of people are still unfamiliar with this side of the legislation or the laws involving in this part, and understand why people are still fearful that they think companies are still capable of doing whatever they want without information. Yeah, and informs people in your friend list, even if they are not in that server, that you're screen sharing unless you go invisible. It's usually people with very little understanding of what happens behind the scenes. But content moderation and such will react this vehemently. Yes, I feel like it's like because of the usual, this sort of things happen. This sort of panic or fear mongering happens in social media, especially on Twitter. When there's some news happening, misinformation, fear that involves fear and panic spreads very quickly and very easily, right? More than actual truth. Like what I'm trying to tell people about privacy policy, that people shouldn't be worried about it, shouldn't panic over it, but still people panic about it. Because it's easier to be fearful, it's easier to avoid things that you do not understand rather than trying to understand it and trying to see if there is ways to protect yourself from it, right? For example, in terms of privacy policy, there are ways to protect yourself, either by disabling, the privacy settings in Discord, or just in general be safe whenever you're saying anything, whenever you're using Discord to communicate with people. Like I said, so when you're talking to anyone online, whether it's in real life friend or online friends, or literally anyone in the internet, don't assume that you're safe, right? Don't assume that you're safe to share things that are like your password, your credit card number, or your location, your address, like details that will be harmful to you. People will scam you, hack you, or put you in danger. Okay, I'm back from college. Oh, welcome back, Zombie. We're finished with we were talking about Discord's privacy policy, and we're just trying to conclude it. But of course, there's a bit of other things I have to talk about. But yes, people, I can chalk up this as people being uneducated on the privacy laws and what privacy policies are all about. Imagine if a company doesn't have privacy policies. That's even worse, right? Even worse. And probably I can definitely tell you this at least 100%. If a platform doesn't have privacy policy or have very brief, short privacy policies, you have to be very wary of them. All right, very, very wary of them. Will this information affect? Yes, Zombie, it will. But yes, going back to this one. when I was researching on, this one and trying to conclude whether there's any problems with the privacy policy, I can't find any problems with it. If anything, I would say they have done a good job, a very good job in terms of informing you how to collect your information, what information is being used, and what... Sorry? Oh, my wife says love me. She loves me. Anyways, and I love her too. Anyways, yeah.
That's kind of sus.
It's kind of sus. But yes, how do I say this? Yeah, they're very thorough. They're very thorough. In telling you how they use the information. So there's no loophole. There's nothing that has been
kept you waiting, huh?
Zombie, I have to ask you to lay down with the sound alerts. I hope you understand. Right now we're doing some sort of like a semi-serious stream, so I do hope you can lay down the jokes and sound alerts. But yeah, really, I'm a person that is trying to think of understanding how everyone is thinking. So I'm trying to think, why are people fearful of this, so that we can address that. We can help these people not be fearful at the very least. All right. And the only thing I can think of is, educate them. Try to not spread misinformation. The very cause of this whole thing happened is a lot of people that, spread this misinformation, spread the controversies behind Discord's privacy policies, because of other factors. I think it's because of the AI art war that's happening, and because Discord is also trying to implement some sort of AI technology to Discord, and at the same time their privacy policy has changed and removed these things, and they are thinking, oh, is this in relation? They are starting to suspect whether this is in relation to, implementations of the AI technology in Discord. So they started to make up stories by themselves and think that, yeah, they are removing this so that because now Discord is able to gather your art that you've shared in Discord and use it for something like the stable diffusion, and it will fuel the AI art generator all the more. So all this fear, all this misinformation spread just makes things worse, right? And if I will keep it serious and no more tomfoolery, no problem. And thank you for understanding, Zombie. So yeah, regardless, I also said this, but take note, it doesn't mean Discord won't monitor your calls, streams when they receive reports of the terms of service or community guidelines violations. So yeah, again, I've been saying this again and again. If you've done something that is like trying to organize some sort of a hate raid, some sort of a harmful act plan that would cause people to be in a situation of physical danger or even mental trauma, all that stuff, or in general in violations of the terms of service or community guideline that Discord has provided. If people have reported you on these things and you're organizing all these things, you're trying to communicate with people to how to harm people, how to do criminal activities, Discord will start to monitor your activity, right? Even if they do not store your calls, if they do not store your video calls, they are going to monitor you. They're going to be probably invisible, so they don't alert anyone. And if they found any truth to it, any evidence of that sort, they will report to the law enforcement. And that's why, even if they say they don't store video calls or voice calls, it doesn't mean your conversations are absolutely private. If you want absolute private conversations, go out and go out in real life and talk to people. That is your one and only, probably not the one and only, one of the most safest or most private way of you to communicate with people. Right? All right. So that's the part of explaining Discord's privacy policy. Now we're going to very brief of the relevant laws. Okay. So this is a question I asked myself, of course, because I'm curious. So the question I asked myself is, are there laws prohibiting companies to sell personal data to third parties? Which I think I already answered this earlier, but I'll say it again. No, unfortunately, no. There's no laws prohibiting companies from selling personal data to third parties or anyone, for the matter of fact, right? It's a legitimate business. It's not a criminal activity. It's not a criminal offense to be selling personal data to third parties. It has been a thing for years, decades, even, right? All that privacy laws only do is regulate it, right? I guess you can't stop it, so they regulate how you do it. All right. And I've tried to explore a few countries' laws on it, and when I look at the United States, again they have this problem because it's too huge. Right, United States is too huge, so they always have this line that says, "There's no single principle data protection legislation in the United States. Rather, a jumble of hundreds of laws enacted on both the federal and state levels serve to protect the personal data of US residents. At the federal level, the Federal Trade Commission Act broadly empowers the US Federal Trade Commission to bring enforcement actions to protect consumers against unfair and deceptive practices and to enforce federal privacy and data protection regulations." So yeah, US always has this problem of having too many states and having too many different laws in all those different states, and then differing levels of regulations in terms of privacy law, at least. So for our purposes, because we have only been talking about this Discord privacy policy, we only look into California, the state, right? So we look into California Consumer Privacy Act. For anyone that has the link to this Google document, you can look at it yourself, right? In what it mentions. But I'll only tell you that, show you this that I've screenshotted, is what is the act about. Simply put, over here I highlighted that California residents have the right to know whether their personal data is sold or disclosed and to whom, and also have the right to say no to the sale of the personal data. So at least with Discord's privacy policy or Discord's services, I hope this is applicable to most people, I would say, or at least they practice this not just to people who are residing in California, right? So to speak that how do I say this? That if somehow Discord wants to sell your personal information, they have to tell you, right? They have to tell you. I really hope they are not like picking individual from individual, but maybe they will, right? Maybe they'll find out whether you're Californian or not. And if you aren't, they won't tell you they are going to be changing their privacy policy, and then they will be selling your personal data in the future. All I said, Discord's privacy policy is really good and such, but we don't know the future because it can change, right? Their privacy policy will have the capability of changing, and will add to, maybe, I don't know, to say that they will use your personal data for profit. Maybe because they have sold their company to a different entity, and that entity has much less ethics, and they will cash in on all the personal information that is provided in Discord. So who's to say, all right? Who's to say that that is a thing that might or might not happen? Then, of course, we have the European Economic Area, European Union. All these acts have, mentioned just to highlight that personal information can be sold, and there's not much to regulate it or stop it from happening. Because all the acts, all the laws, most of them say is really just telling you that to process a personal data, right? To process a personal data, the process, in quoted in brackets, can mean anything. So process can mean selling your data, transferring your data, using your data for anything, whatever purpose, right? That is what it means to say process a personal data. And there are requirements, right? Legal requirements for a company, for any entity, for any individual to process a personal data. And according to the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, there are like 6 legal bases that you can process a person's personal data, right? And this 6 legal basis is not, accumulative. Well, in a sense, I'm trying to say is not all 6 requirements, not all 6 legal bases have to be complied with for a entity to process personal data. At least one, even if one is complied with, the person can process the data, right? So here we have 6 of them. The only thing I will highlight is, either, of course, you need the person to give consent to process the data, or the most not controversial one, the most relaxed reason to process a personal data is for the company, for the entity to have legitimate interest, right? As long as they have a legitimate interest to process the personal data, they can do so. And it's not really explained what these legitimate interests are. And legitimate interest could include, selling and buying information. So that's that. That's why, in a sense, the privacy laws allow the selling and buying of personal information, personal data, unfortunately. And don't quote me on this. This is my only brief research on this. I'm just going to say, if the GDPR says you can sell or buy personal data, it probably means a lot of most countries would follow this suit as well. Right? Either they say this or don't say this. Except for general exceptions, like not general exceptions, specific exceptions, like California having laws to say that if someone's data is being sold, they have to tell them that it's being sold. They have to tell people that it's. They have to give people the option to say no to the sale of personal data. And I would say there's an exception, not really the general rule. General rule would be, yep, personal data can be sold. And we have also looked into the United Kingdom. They have a similar act called Data Protection Act 2018. Similar legislation, sorry. And I think this is kind of lazy, but still, they probably add a lot more stuff into it. But yes, their act is based on the GDPR. Most processing of personal data is subject to GDPR. So they kind of like use the shortcut way of saying, yep, anything GDPR allows, it regulates, also makes it's the same in the United Kingdom. All right, but of course they add a lot of other, probably all other areas which the GDPR didn't include, but not our concern. All right, not our concern. Our only concern right now is answering the question whether companies are able to sell personal data, right? And of course, always, I'm from Malaysia. I have to tell people how Malaysian law is as well. The same, the same, although presented in a different way. So for Malaysia, we have the Personal Data Protection Act, the PDPA, 2010. So we have, in order for a person to process personal data, they have to follow these 6 principles, right? General principle, notice and choice principle, disclosure principle, security principle, retention principle, data integrity principle, access principle. It is simple. I can tell you it's the same as how do you say, the GDPR, but much less complicated. The much less detailed. You can even say it's less detailed than Discord's privacy policy. In a sense, because they have all the categories like like Discord's privacy policy, but less detailed, more general. Unfortunately, so that's it. Malaysia also allows sell and buying of personal data, because again, processing data includes everything, including buying and selling data. It's a very general term, so it can be defined, can be defined for anything, as long as it's the use of a personal information. So yeah, that's just a quick explanation of the privacy law. I don't want to get into it. I've gotten into it for quite some time, just to make sure I haven't didn't miss out anything from what we're trying to tackle on, right? So yeah, we could say this is it for what I'm trying to explain. So now we're going to be moving on to see if there's any more questions, right? I don't see if there's any more questions, but I do need to how do you say this? Previously, Punyo did have questions for me. It would be probably best to discuss them as well over here, right? So I've been asked 2 questions before we started the legal investigations. So over here, I've been asked this. Jake, I'm not sure how much you've looked into Jason Citron, the history of Discord, and I'm personally unsure what narrative to trust, as OpenFaint has a history of invasion of privacy among others. Cross-reference, Heinz versus OpenFaint Incorporated, and has a link to the case. And there are a plethora of videos on YouTube that warn of Discord being more liberal with data collection, which I doubt from my own reading and sharing this data with the third parties. We think it is fair to judge Discord based on the track record of companies its founder was previously affiliated with or founded. So yeah, from that on, I've looked into this quickly, And from what I found, it's not really compelling evidence that to say that Discord has a bad reputation. If anyone wants to inform me of have any evidence, have any reference or any news articles saying Discord is bad in terms of regulating, processing people, users' personal data, do let me know. But yeah, to clarify, what I found out is Jason Citron, the founder of Discord, was previously also the founder of OpenFaint, also something like Discord, right? But before this case happened, Jason Citron had sold OpenFaint to Gree Incorporated, a Japanese company, on April 2011. But the case, that was mentioned by Pungyu, is filed on June 22nd, 2011, but also dismissed on December 5th, 2011. There was no news reporting on why this was settled out of court, whether this is settled out of court or not, but it was dismissed. Both parties dismissed it, right? There was no sort of a trial there's no trial, no nothing at all. So we have no idea what happened to this case. Whether or not OpenFaint was at fault, we don't know. We have no idea what the details of this settlement was. I also feel those concerns are overblown, but wasn't sure if you may have found other things while searching this. Yeah, the only thing I found out was, this is something people have tried to accuse the CEO of. I probably heard of this about. But the other thing about Jason Citron being accused of is also wanting to deal with NFTs. But I've briefly looked into it, but the CEO as well as Discord themselves have expressly stated that they are not going to be implementing any sort of NFT service and NFT features in Discord. So there's that. So what I did, it's something I look into, and I don't think it's really relevant to say. But then again, if let's say they have an interest in NFTs, if let's say Jason Citron had a personal interest in NFTs, okay, it doesn't matter. Like how I've previously research on this, as in there was another company, there was another CEO of a company that dealt with AI technology in regards to art. People accuse the founders being NFT bros, people who dealt with NFTs, and because of that, their company that dealt with AI technology would also implement NFTs secretly. I'm just gonna say this: people have to differentiate between individuals and companies. The companies are not always going to be individuals are not going to represent companies. Individual interests do not represent company interests. Whatever a company does is what they do, right? Whatever an individual does is whatever they do. If those two entities ever overlap, then there will be a problem. Like say the CEO is using the funds for a company to invest in NFTs. Yes, then that would be a problem. That would definitely be a problem, right? But if let's say, if let's say I had a company, man, this is hard to bring up some sort of analogy to this. If I had a company that was dealing with educating people in terms of human rights, I don't know. I have a non-profit organization that I founded to teach people human rights, to teach people about LGBT stuff, make people aware of discriminations or equal rights and such. And so, but in my individual capacity, I'm doing something that is not really related to my organization, but I'm doing something maybe. I'm thinking of something. I'm doing NFTs again, or maybe I'm doing NFTs, or maybe I'm doing lewd arts. Maybe I'm doing lewd arts. I do lewd arts as part of a side gig, right? Or I do ASMR that is somewhat sus or something like that. I don't know. Whatever you want, however you imagine that is might be uncomfortable when people think about it. Okay, but does that make my efforts in pushing for human rights less relevant? No, not less relevant, any less important to do, right? Does me pushing for equal rights makes me less reputable, less credible? I don't think so, right? I don't think so. Unless I suddenly have all these personal interests, personal hobbies, or whatever services I provide, get it mixed with my organization, with my company, then there would be a problem. Then there would be a problem of ethics and all that, even legal, maybe even like legal perspectives. So yeah, that's one question. Then the other question is, do I have anything to go off with other anecdotal personal evidence, but have you found any credible information to confirm or deny whether Discord direct messages or voice calls have information extracted from them for sharing, sale, use by third parties? I had very odd Facebook suggestions just after mentioning after something specific in a voice call or text DM. Barely even uses Facebook as it stands. Some articles I've read online purport that this is simply a confirmation bias, and there's no evidence of information in private channels being used this way. At the same time, I know someone who works for a data broker company who says that these companies have ways to see the content or DMs on any social media. So yeah, unfortunately, this is way out of my league. I, without evidence, without proof, without anything of that sort, and I'm not an expert in this field, right? In terms of on the technicalities of data processing or collecting data, I can't answer this. I am unfortunately unable to answer this with any with my legal background at all. All I can tell people is what can be done and can't be done within the confines of the Discord's privacy policy. If the privacy policy tells people what they can do, how they do it, for what purpose they can do it, and what sort of data they are collecting is presented in the privacy policy, that is what is going to be done, right? Now, anything that is beyond privacy policy is speculative, at least for me, right? It's speculative and highly depends on a person's technical expertise on this field. So I do hope that is a satisfactory answer for you, Pungyu. But yeah, this goes, I would say, on a side note, this is the same for everything. Every legal document that you have read or are involved with, if for me, when it comes to the legal side of things, if someone says they have a right to do something, they have the legal obligation to do something, I always think from, because I'm a lawyer, I always think from the side of, can they do this legally? Where does it say they have to do this? Are they contractually bound to do these things? Is there under any laws, relevant laws, that say they can't do these things or they have to do these things? So that's where I come in. That's only when I come in. right? People a lot of times think somehow when a legal document doesn't say a thing, it means they are able to do those things. More often than not, that's not the case, right? If a piece of legal document doesn't give you the right to do something, doesn't give you the right to do something, right? The only thing you have to consider is how the legal documents are worded, right? Are they very general? Are they very ambiguous? Or are they very specific? Are they detailed? Right? That is where you might find whether a person is capable of doing something, is legally capable of doing something or not. Right? The more general a terms and condition is, more likely or not, it means the person is capable of doing a lot of things within that legal document. Or vice versa, if a terms and conditions is very specific in the circumstances of what they are allowed to do, then yes, they have less power. It's more likely whatever they do is restricted by the terms and conditions. Anyways, I think I've been rambling for a bit too long. It's 3 hours now. So if anyone doesn't have any more questions, this will be it, right? I'm going to just drink a bit of water and we'll see. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So no more questions. I'll be ending the stream now. So thank you so much to everyone who came by. I hope you enjoyed this legal investigations, and I hope it is helpful in some way, and as well as most importantly, quelled some worries by people that are, on the fence about the privacy policy, as well as fearful of what they will be doing with your personal data. All I can tell you is don't need to worry too much, okay? So yeah. Take care, stay hopeful, but be critical. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye. Goodbye to all those that are watching in the VOD. Hope you like it. If you do like it, hope you give a like, subscribe, or comment. Anything you like to say, anything, have opinions, have something more insightful to tell me, do let me know. But for now, goodbye.